after you finish sewing the head in place, you can go ahead and set the head and body aside while I show you how to make the legs. So for the feet, you can use whatever color that you want, almond or the cream color. I'm starting with my almond color. And you're going to start the exact same way that you did for the body. So I'm making my slip knot right now. And then I want to chain 2. And then I'm going to make 7 single crochet into the first chain or the second chain from the hook. So again, this is the same thing that we did for the body to start. I'm just getting you started again. So again, I'm putting 7 stitches. So that's 5, 6, and 7. And then you're just going to make 2 single crochet in every stitch around until you end up with a stitch count of 14. So there's 1. Oh, I think I lost my loop. There we go. Oh, no, let me start. I'll catch up and then come back. Alright, so now you're going to go into the first stitch and you're going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have 14 stitches in the round. So there's my 2. Go into the next stitch for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 10, 12, and 14. So now you're going to use your yarn marker, and just like we did for the head and the body, you're going to be making 2 single crochet in every stitch, and we're trying to end up with a stitch count of 30. So for this round, we're probably not going to get close to that. I'm just going to make 2 single crochet in every stitch. That's 4, 5, 6, that's 10, 14, 16, 17. So I'm finishing this round with 20. So now I'm going to try for the stitch count of 30. So remember, you're going to have 15 stitches to the halfway point and then 15 stitches to finish up for a stitch count of 30. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So now I have 15. So I want to try and get 15 more. So I end this round with a stitch count of 30. So there's 1, 2, 3, and I ended up with 30. So now I have 30 stitches in the round, which is what I wanted. Then just take and move the yarn marker up and then make one more round of one single crochet in every stitch to end up with a stitch count of 30. So remember, you should have 15 at the halfway point to know that you're on track, and then 15 more to end up with 30. So one round of one single crochet in every stitch around. So then I still have a stitch count of 30. Then just move your yarn marker up, and then you're going to make 8 single crochet 2 stitches together. So you're going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through all 3 for a single crochet 2 stitches together. Looks like I have a little knot in my yarn. I'm just going to test it. I'm going to go ahead and fix this knot in my yarn. So I guess I'll just show you how I fix that. So I'm going to have to undo my work here, the single crochet 2 stitches together. I'm going to raise up the loop here because I don't want to test, it might come undone in the work and then ruin the toy. So now I ended up before my single crochet 2 stitches together. I'm going to leave my hook there so that it holds my place and doesn't lose my loop of yarn. And then here is the flaw in the yarn. So I'm going to cut before and after the flaw. It happens more often than I would like. Then just take, and you want to leave a little bit of a loose yarn end, and then just tie a knot in your yarn. That way you have a more secure knot in place. And then you just resume crocheting right where you left off. So again, we were single crocheting 2 stitches together, and we're going to make 8 of them. So there's 1. I'm just showing you how I work around the knot. So I just ignore the knot as if it's not even there. There's my second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. 7 and 8. Then you just want to turn your work so that the wrong side is on the inside, and there's all my little loose yarn ends. They stay right on the inside. And you're creating with those 8 single crochet 2 stitches together a little outpouching for the front of the paw. Then you're just going to resume 1 single crochet into each of the remaining stitches. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 14. So the stitch count, what you want to do is you want to maintain whatever stitch count that you get for one foot should be the same for all of your feet. So for mine, I ended up with about 14 stitches after the single crochet 2 stitches together. So now for my paw, I am going to maintain a stitch count of 20. So how I do that is the same way. I'm going to move up my yarn marker, and what I mean by same way is that I'm going to use the halfway point to keep track of the stitches in the round. So I have my yarn marker starting here, and if I want to keep 20 stitches in the round, I should hit 10 stitches by here, the halfway point, and then I'll make 10 stitches in the remaining stitches. So then you just make one single crochet in every stitch around for one round, maintaining a stitch count of 20. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm about 10 here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now I have a stitch count of 20 in the round, and I'm going to make one more round where I'm going to end up in the back of the foot. So that means that I need 10 stitches here and then 5 stitches to end up in the back. And then we're going to change colors. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm close to the halfway point with 10. Now I need 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is the point where I'm going to change colors. So I'm going to go into the next stitch over and bring up a loop. Now I have 2 loops on my crochet hook. So I'm going to bring in the color that I want, which is my ivory metallic. So I'm going to bring up a loop with my ivory metallic. And the reason why I'm switching is because I'm trying to save my fur yarn. So if you wanted to create your foot with all the fur, you're just going to need to buy more skeins of yarn to complete a complete full fur dog. So then this is going to become my new starting point for counting the rounds. But I'm going to switch to my 3.75 millimeter crochet hook because I'm using this different style of yarn. Then I'm going to take and move the yarn marker over here. You may not need the yarn marker because you have the different style of yarn, which will tell you how many rounds that you have. But then you're just going to make one single crochet in every stitch around, and you should end up with a stitch count of 20. So try to end up with a stitch count of 20 back at the stitch marker. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm almost at the halfway mark. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut my previous yarn if you haven't done so already. And tuck that little loose yarn in right into the center. -- 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then I'm just going to make 2 single crochet to end up so that I end up with a stitch count of 20. And then you're just going to continue crocheting, and you should maintain your stitch count of 20, and you can go ahead and add craft stuffing too as you're crocheting the leg portion. And then you just need one single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 14 rounds, and then come back. So then after you finish your 14 rounds of one single crochet in every stitch and you've stuffed the leg with craft stuffing, we're going to start to close. So just take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off, and the first decrease round is one single crochet into 3 stitches, and then you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together, and then you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So one single crochet into 3 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, repeating that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have 16 total stitches in the round. Go ahead and move your yarn marker up and then just make one round of one single crochet in every stitch around. So one round of one single crochet in every stitch around. Then you're just going to move your yarn marker up, and then for this next decrease round you're going to make one single crochet into 2 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, and then repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. One single crochet into 2 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, repeating that pattern all the way around. Now you should have 10 stitches in the round. Go ahead and move your yarn marker up and then just make one single crochet in every stitch around for one round. I actually had 11 stitches in the round, so 10 or 11 at this point, it's okay. Doesn't matter. One stitch. Then go ahead and take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off, and then you're just going to make one single crochet in 1 stitch and then single crochet 2 stitches together, and then repeat that pattern all the way around and back to the yarn marker. So now I have 1 stitch remaining. Go ahead and remove your yarn marker and then go ahead and just make a decrease stitch, and then you can go ahead and slip stitch close. So you're going to skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through both for a slip stitch, and you're just going to finish slip stitching it closed. And then once it's closed, go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And so you just created a little out pouching, and that's where your leg is going to attach to the body. And we're going to go ahead and bury the loose yarn end. So just take your tapestry needle, put it right onto that loose yarn end, and then just enter right where you finished off and then exit anywhere. And then go ahead and trim the loose yarn end, and then this is how the foot will look. So here's the out pouching for the front of the foot, and then here's the leg, and then you can squish the top portion of it so that we can attach it to the body. So you're going to need 4 of these. Go ahead and finish making all of your feet. They're all made the same way. Now for attaching the legs, I just use my 12-inch upholstery needle, and you get the same colored yarn as the leg, the top of the leg, and then you want enough yarn to make sure that you can go through the legs and the body twice. Then you're going to take 2 of the legs, and remember that you want the paw facing forward, and then you want to pancake or squish the top portion, and again position the front of the paw forward. Take your upholstery needle and just go right through the top portion and come out on the opposite side. And then you want to leave a little bit of a loose yarn end, and about 6 inches again. Then just take and line up the leg, and I usually line up the leg in the middle of the body, and also in line with the ears. So an imaginary line from the ears to the middle of the body. And then once you're happy with where the legs are going to go, that's where you're going to go in to the body with your upholstery needle. And then you're going to come out on the opposite side at the same level. So you can see I'm coming out on the opposite side, midline with the ear and middle of the body. And then just bring the yarn through the body. And you want to leave about 1 to 2 inches between the body and the leg. Then you're going to go through the next leg, and you want to make sure again that the front paw is facing forward. Squish the top and then go through the top. I'm going to go down 1. So 1 to 2 inches between the body and the leg. Then you're going to go right back about a stitch over. You're going to come out a stitch over on the opposite side, and then just bring the yarn back through. Then you're going to go about a stitch over on the body from where you exited, and then go back through. Be very careful not to cross or go through the previous yarn. So about a stitch over. So you can see I'm about a stitch away from where I went in. And I'm leaving about 1 to 2 inches of yarn between the leg and the body. And then you're just going to go through about a stitch away from where you exited on the leg, and exit a stitch away from where you first went in. And then you're going to repeat the whole process one more time. Always a stitch away of where you entered and exited the leg. Then you can see how I have the 4 strands of yarn between the body and the legs. Then you just take your 2 loose yarn ends and then you just pull the yarn. If you meet any resistance, then you let go and just pull on 1 yarn strand at a time. And you keep jiggling and pulling until you cinch the legs against the body. And you want just enough to where you don't have any strings between the legs and the body, and the legs are moving up and down. Then once you're happy with the position, then you can take and tie a knot. Then you can trim the loose yarn ends, and then you can bury your loose yarn ends in your work. Just take your tapestry needle, put it onto the loose yarn end. You go in right where you tied the knot and then come out anywhere on the back of the leg, and then just trim your loose yarn end. The back legs are attached the same way. Again, you want to make sure that the paw is facing forward, and then you go into the paw the same way. And then you want to line up. You want to have the back leg go in at the same point that you went in for the front leg. So line up in an imaginary line, and then you want to go into the body. Now make sure that you still have a little bit on the back side. So I'm happy with this going in at this level. So you can see that I'm going in at the same level as the front legs, and I'm giving enough room to have a little bit of the back side. and then you just go at this out the same level on the opposite side. Make sure that you're level with the front leg on the opposite side as well, and you want to leave enough for the back side of the dog. Then you have the back legs attached, and this is what mine looks like. So now I'm going to show you how to make the tail. Now for the tail, I used the cream colored yarn or beige colored yarn, and then fold it over on itself to form a loop. Take your crochet hook, and again you're using your 6mm crochet hook. Go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb. Then yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for your slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down, and then make sure you leave a little bit of a loop around your crochet hook for your first chain. And then just yarn over and go through the loop for your first chain. Yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the second loop for your second chain. Then you're just going to make 8 single crochet into the second chain from the hook, or that first chain that you made. And remember, you don't want your stitches to be too tight, so that's my second. Third. I lost the loop, so I'm just going to go one more time. Here's the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Then you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around, which should be about 8 stitches. You can use your yarn marker to help you keep track of the stitches. And you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around, maintaining your stitch count of 8. So when you get to the halfway point, you should have 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. So I have 4 at the halfway point. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's how you're going to keep track of your stitch counts around. Just move your yarn marker up, and you want to keep repeating this. Keep track of your rounds, because you're going to repeat this for 16 rounds, or whatever round length that you want for your tail. So again, there's 1, 2, and sometimes you may need to put a same stitch, 2 single crochet into the same stitch, so that you're maintaining your stitch count. I have 4 now, at the halfway mark of 8. So you want to try and maintain your stitch count as 8 as best as you can. So that's 6. So I need 2 more. 7 and 8. And then you can kind of slowly turn your work inside out so that you're working around the edges as you make your stitches. And then you're going to keep repeating this until you finish 16 rounds, and then come back. So after you're finished with your 16 rounds, you can make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. Just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on your hook. Then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop, and bring enough yarn through to sew the tail onto the back of the dog. And then optional is putting a pom-pom on the end, so I'm going to make a pom-pom for the end of mine. I used my almond colored yarn for the pom-pom, and I just used my clover pom-pom maker. And again, if you want to make your own pom-pom, you can use cardboard. I show how to do it in my crochet owl baby hat. It can be found on my YouTube channel in a separate video tutorial. Then you just kind of wind the yarn around the clover arches. Now if you're making your own, the size cardboard that I made is 5.5 inches by 5 inches. So that was the size of the cardboard that I used. Then I want enough for the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. But you can wrap it around as many times as you want on the arch. And then you just repeat the same thing on the other arch. And then I just close it on the other side and then cut it. And remember, you need enough to tie around the center and sew it on as well. But before we do that, we need to cut down the center. So I like to use my embroidery scissors for that. And I just trim right down the center of the arch with my embroidery scissors. And the same thing on the other side. Then you can take your leftover yarn and I'm going to get the knot out of mine. Then just take and wrap the yarn around the center of the pom-pom and just tie a knot. Cinch that knot down the center. Then you can remove those yarn strands on the side. Then you just take and remove the pom-poms. Or I should say pom-pom. Then you can take the long strands and put them onto your tapestry needle. Then you can take and sew the pom-pom onto the tip of the tail. And then just tie a knot. I'm going to sew the other side too. So you just go right through, sewing the pom-pom in place. And then I'm going to exit right where my other loose yarn end is. And then just tie a knot. And then with the loose yarn ends, I like to go right through the pom-pom again. So then I just take the tapestry needle and just go right through the center of the pom-pom. And then you just trim it. And then this is what my pom-pom looks like when I'm finished on the tail. Then you're ready to sew the tail in place. Just take your tapestry needle and then you want to center the tail on the back of the body where you want the tail to be, and then just go right into the body with your tapestry needle. And then you're going to sew all around the base of the tail, securing it to the body. And then the tail will curve over on the body, and you can decide if you want to sew the tail to the back of the body or not, or just leave it hanging, and then it can go down to whatever you want to do. And this is what they look like when you're all finished. So this one with the anime eyes, and then this one with the safety doll eyes.